So my name is Brent Carney. I am the founder and CEO of Carney Communications. We're a boutique communications firm. We work with businesses of really all sizes, but our target area is really small to medium-sized businesses who are looking for really a strategic partner. They're looking for somebody who's going to be doing press releases. We're not the firm for them. We come in and we help clients find ways to really engage and elevate what they're doing and find new and strategic ways to really exceed their goals. That's what we're about. That's what we love to do. And that's what we've been successful doing for the last 7 years.
Hello, hello, hello. If I could just start that way with everybody, which is like so much fun. Hi, Brent, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good.
So for everyone out there, Brent and I used to work together in TV back in the day, which isn't that far of a day, but we used to be producers in the TV world. And I love that you have your own business now. So this is amazing.
It's fantastic. You know, it seems like it wasn't that long ago that we were back in the TV studio doing our thing. And, but it's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit. I mean, like, there's so many things that have happened for both of us in that little bit. But before we get there, I want everyone to understand who you are. So walk us through who you are, what you did before even meeting me to get to the point of where you are right now.
Sure. So, you know, actually, when I first met you, it was the start of my career. You know, I started off in television, kind of behind the scenes, doing writing, doing producing, doing work with editing and so forth. And I left that world. I'd always had my pulse on the political world, and I left and worked for Senator Kennedy, and I served his deputy press secretary and legislative aide. And I've done a number of things since. I've been a senior advisor to a U.S. senator. I've been a VP of a couple of global PR firms. And I decided I really wanted to kind of step aside from that and pave my own way. So I started my own firm back in 2014. And it's been really an amazing experience. It's allowed me to kind of focus on the aspects that I really love and enjoy, and work with people I love to work with and enjoy, and the type of clients that I really love. So it's been such a rewarding experience, and you know, I'd do it again.
Yeah, you know what? You went the fast way, and I'm gonna bring it back and rewind.
All right.
Like, go the slow way. So let's just start. Where did you go to school, and what did you major in first?
So I have a political science degree at Syracuse University, and that's kind of where I found my love for politics. Actually, was there, but I also went to Fitchburg State and got my MBA. Mm-hmm. So I have those 2 degrees, which really are foundational to the type of work that I do.
So when you got into TV, well, I don't see you were poly. You were focusing on politics. You went into TV. Why? Were you going to focus on reporting on the politics, or I'm just trying to figure out where that TV love came in.
You know, I had some colleagues and friends who were at the station and loved it, and I was always intrigued by the political reporting part, and that was really kind of what drove me and excited me. And you know, so I became, you know, close friends with the political team really at the station, who ended up helping me get my first job in politics. But, you know, it was so early in my career when I was at the station, it was getting a foothold in and kind of getting a feel for what we wanted to do. And at that point, I kind of decided I didn't want to be behind the scenes. I wanted to be creating strategy and creating ways to tell stories that were kind of looking back at it. So the great thing is, you know, I did really love my time there, and I've been able to take both aspects of working with companies, working with politicians, creating that strategy, but doing it with the media at the same time and working with them. So being able to kind of put those together has been fantastic.
Now, one of the things that I remember so well when we were in TV was major stories. I mean, major stories.
Yeah.
9/11. We were
Yeah.
one of the first stations to be in New York, outside of New York stations, to cover that story. I mean, it was amazing. It was exhausting. It was, I mean, every single emotion you could ever think of one of the most epic times of our lives was happening. What were your thoughts during that time? And how did that propel you to the next stage of being in politics? If there's any intertwining.
I don't know if there's any intertwining per se, but I remember sitting there. I was at home because I worked the evening shift, and I was at home when it first happened. And I remember my first instinct was get dressed and get to work. And I went in as fast as I could, and I got to work just as the second plane was hitting. And I just, we're sitting there behind the scenes trying to tell this story and report on it and gather video and bring it in. But we're experiencing it at the same time. And because of that, it really was so emotional. I remember, having the crews be kind of the first ones there from our region in New York and at Ground Zero, and watching, these seasoned professionals just breaking down on live television because it was so hard on everybody. And we went several days without even a commercial break. And, it's something that's, I think sits with all of us. I have friends who have family that lost people that day. And, as I think a lot of us did. And, I can't say that there's necessarily a correlation between that event and wanting to be, in politics. But, I was in politics during, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And, I represented the senator I was working at funerals of people who, lost loved ones over in Afghanistan. And I remember poignantly representing the senator at a funeral for this 18-year-old person who was lost by an explosive device, and he was married and his wife was 19, and he was there with the family. And it just struck me, how young these people were that were there and dying for our country. And so those types of moments and the sacrifice that our servicemen and women gave, and the families that they have here left behind gave, all for that, have really kind of shaped my philosophy of always wanting to be working with nonprofits and organizations that I can make a difference with and help, because I've always believed in giving back, and that's been really a central piece of what I've done because of these events that I've been part of.
And mind you, there was a reason of why I'm going this route. You worked for Senator Kennedy. I was with Governor Romney. We were at a lot of those funerals at the same exact time. We watched as we're going to attending all these funerals, and it broke my heart to see we were at the deployments, and to be at the funerals at the same time was devastating. It was so hard because we were younger. We were younger, and we were, these are great jobs, but it was really, really hard at that time. And then we're fast forwarding to the economy 10 years later. So in 2009, the economy, so 9/11, the economy definitely took a hit. And then you fast forward to 2008, 2009. And where are you then? Where are you when the entire world is imploding in regards to the economy, Lehman Brothers? There's there's no light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of these big companies that were really laying off a large chunk of our community.
Well, I was at the time I was working at a firm, and it was a challenge to try and figure out how to navigate this. But I'd even take it a step back, because there was precursors before that really kind of struck me, where we had the political dialogue. When we were in those respective offices, there was no animosity towards what was going on. It was kind of just, we got along, everybody got along, and we respected each other. And I think towards the end of my time with Senator Kennedy, it really took a turn where it started to have that, the discussion wasn't there. And in the second office I worked with, it was really, really gone. And I apologize for my dog. We have a very...
You know what? I've had dogs, I've had UPS guys, I've had husbands, I've had, you know, it doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter.
We have a very senior dog who is 15 and we love him. He's been with us since just before I got married. And I mean, excuse me, just after we got married. And he is deaf and he just does his best. He doesn't realize that I took him out just before we went on, just to make sure he'd be okay. But so with the discussion,
it's like a child. They know when you're on the phone. They know.
Absolutely. I've had, you know, I've got three children who do shape a lot of where I go and what I do. You know, we've got a 13-year-old, we've got two foster children, 5 and 3. And I've had, especially my 3-year-old, come over during these Zoom calls and just be like, hello, hello. And what can you do? You know, when you were on the phone pre-COVID, you could kind of swat them away. No, come out, go out of the room. But, you know, when I do this to get out of the room, everybody can see it. But
and also the kids are like, that gives me permission because this means this.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but I think just going back, you know, I remember sitting in that office looking out the window, and it was really around the healthcare discussion and the Affordable Care Act, and people were outside with signs that just said no healthcare, and there was just no discussion. There was just animosity, and it's kind of just built from there. And frankly, it's part of the reason why I left working in politics, because it was just so bitter that, you know, I felt that there were opportunities to use my skills to help organizations do good, and really, you know, drive some strategy that can help them. So that's the direction I ended up taking, and why I really started my own company.
So now, again, fast forward.
Yep.
We are here in a pandemic. I feel like we have lived through many people have lived through, but in our careers, it has shaped our careers and who we are and what we're doing. We're in a pandemic right now. You're in the forefront of communicating for so many different people, and they're scared, especially small, medium businesses. They're working hard, they're working fast, they're not thinking about anything but the next day, the next day, the next day, next day. Long-term planning is something that they know they should do, but they don't do as much as the larger companies do. So March 15-ish, the world starts like rumbling, and then we go into a shutdown and the ripple effect. And so the past 6 months, what has that looked like for you personally, but also what has that looked like for the companies that you represent? Because the companies you represent are the companies I represent. I feel like we started in politics. We started in the media, we went into politics. And we both own our own businesses, and we represent the same group of people because of the way that we were raised, the people that we are.
Yep.
But what did that do for you?
I mean, for me, on a very personal level, I mean, it was a tremendous challenge, you know, and I think that a lot of my clients were facing the same things. We, you know, all of a sudden we became teachers, you know, of 3 children at very different stages in their lives. You know, I have my MBA, but I don't know this new math and the way they do the math. So I've got a 13-year-old.
Let's pause about that for a quick second. That new math is crazy. I sit there and try to help my best friend's daughter, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, forget it.
Weird.
I think they undermined all of us. Like we could be great help to our kids, and they've taken that all away from us now. So, but you know, so I think and I think I saw in my clients that a lot of them were struggling the same way, especially the ones that were parents and having to be teachers. And, you know, there's a lot of personal fear. There's a lot of fear for the business world. So, you know, looking at the business side of it, we started this whole thing March and April, really kind of just helping clients deal with the immediacy of the situation. You know, how do you deal with it with talking with your clients? How do you talk to your, you know, your different audiences? that is now shifted where I think people kind of have their legs underneath them a bit, but there's a lot of stagnation in what they're doing. They're just trying to get by. And I think that's, you know, a difficult place to be, because really there are competitors who are being very proactive, and you really need to be remaining as proactive as you can be and preparing yourself for when this does end to be hitting full steam ahead. So, you know, right now we're talking with clients who are really getting back to basics and kind of rebuilding your foundation to prepare for that.
When you say getting back to basics, I mean, one of the things that I said to a lot of my clients were work really hard and focus and get to September 1st. If you can get to September 1st, you can get to 2021, because you've already went through the worst of the worst of not knowing. And now we know, you can start planning and strategizing, and you can see 2021. When you're saying get back to the basics, what does that mean for a lot of these companies?
Well, I think, you know, let's take professional service firms, for instance. You know, I think that they've gotten to this and realized, oh, you know, we really should have been doing a lot better with networking and talking our messaging. Now we're a bit screwed because we don't have that base to work with. So we're going back now and talking with clients about, you know, public speaking, but doing it on a format like this. How do you talk with people? How do you still network and get out there? We're helping firms and organizations connect with their audiences. You know, early on, one of our longstanding clients is a scientific organization. They've been with us really since the start. And we said, all right, people really, number one, need to just talk right now and get out what they're feeling. And this is probably back in April. So we set up small little chats on Zoom surrounding specific focal topics, and just had people say, there's no agenda, just come and let's just talk about this stuff. But now it's, you know, evaluating your messaging. It's figuring out, is that messaging really working? Where do you need to pivot to kind of propel yourself in this new reality? But I think the problem is that when companies are just trying to keep their feet underneath them and not looking ahead at what they can be doing to generate new business, and they're not trying to move forward right now, those are the companies that are going to be falling further and further behind. And they're the ones that I worry about. The ones that are still out there or know that they need to be out there and are trying to actively work to make it happen are the ones who are going to be best suited when it comes to 2021.
What do you think is going to happen to the industry? You're hearing, well, I should say before the industry, small businesses, because we have seen a lot of the small businesses and startups that are, they remember 10 years ago, so they're running hard. They started their company 10 years ago. We all know if you're going to start something, start when the economy is bad, because you know where you are, you can lift from there. But what do you think, seeing what's happening, knowing our history, what do you think is going to happen to the small business industry and the startup industry, number one? And also, when you're communicating, a lot of the communication is fear. I mean, it is what it is in regards of the way that the media is right now. I love the media. We were in the media. I'm of the school of the Walter Cronkite and Barbara Walter days of the media, of like doing your homework. So with all the negative news that's out there right now, and with all the naysayers saying that small businesses are failing, but you're in that world, what do you think the future look? I mean, what are your thoughts about what the future will look like for small businesses or anyone that wants to start their own business?
Well, I think, you know, what it looks like, I don't know that we'll be back to normal for a while. You know, I'm thinking really it's going to be the end of next year, because until there's a full caveat of childcare available that's safe and reliable, that I think is going to be a catalyst to getting people back. But I think that people really need to think about where they can differentiate from others. And instead of going broader, kind of focus in and focus on what you really do well. What is that thing? How are you different than your competitors? Where can you provide an advantage? And then think about how you talk about it, because there's ways to really message around that and brand around that. And those are good places to really start. And for people who are looking to start right now, I would say start with that. Think about your plan from that perspective as to how are you going to be different than you know, the next company over who might be doing something similar to what you're doing. Because being able to then speak that way and speak the language, and it's not just the owner that does it, it has to be everybody. It has to be everybody in the company, everybody in the firm talking in that same way about what makes you different. Those are the companies that are going to have the best opportunities.
I love that you just said that, because it drives me nuts when you hear the marketing team, you hear the CEO and the founder, you don't hear the rest of the C-suite or the rest of the staff talking about the company. Right. It is, or you go on their LinkedIn and no one talks about where they work. And I'm like, your biggest advocates are the people that are internal, not external. And the people right. external can see that. So I love that you just said that out loud, where everyone should be talking the same message in their own voices, but finding right. ways to actually tell that message. All right.
It's so true, because you know, you hire companies. A lot of people, there's a lot of firms that do messaging and say that they help companies with messaging, and they come back with this 100-page book that, you know, talks about, you know, how to use this word and how to use that word and when to use it and where to use it. But you know what happens with all of those? They go right in your drawer, and then you never see them again. So you got to keep it simple, succinct, differentiated, and usable. And then anytime that you're having a company meeting, put that in there, put the messaging in there as part of it. When you're sending emails, every single communication, whether it's email, whether it's a phone call, whether you're passing somebody in the street or having a cup of coffee, those are all opportunities. And you need to take advantage of those opportunities and include your messaging as part of each and every one of those opportunities.
I want to hear a little bit more about, well, one, thank you, because I love that you just said that. So yay, great soundbite, love it. I want to hear about you. Talk about when you started this company, what were your biggest pain points? Because right now, a lot of people are still getting paid. They realize, you know what, that job just really isn't for me anymore. This is a great time that no one's over my shoulder watching me. I can actually like figure out my own thing, but I'm scared. And or those individuals that are like, you know what, I got furloughed, I got laid off, I am full on fired. I need to come up with a plan. So talk to me about how it was when you first took the leap. What are the pros, what were the highs and what were the lows?
It was scary. It was. And I think that if somebody—
Scary? What are you talking about? Starting a new
yeah.
What?
I think if somebody's going in thinking they're going to be gangbusters from day one, they're fooling themselves. It takes time. It takes time and a lot of energy, and you need a support team around you, who, whether that's friends or family, who are going to give you those pep talks at 1 a.m. because you're up still building new sections of your website and putting ads out in social media. It's tough. So I think there's a natural tendency to doubt what you're doing along the way. But if you believe in what you're doing, if you've done the homework first, you can go back to that and think about, all right, I've got this down, I'm ready to go. And I think that's the best place. If it's the people who aren't going to do the homework first, they just want to jump in, that are going to struggle. And I think not that we aren't going to all struggle with new businesses, but it took a couple of years before things really started to hum. And I think year 3 for me, before we really felt comfortable with where we are. But I had to go over to my wife's insurance, because I didn't have insurance anymore. No retirement plans. I didn't have any of that. You have nothing. You have yourself and the cast of people that you put around you to support you. So, and there are some days where you see, whatever strategy or product that you're trying to put out there succeeding and somebody benefiting from it. And that is such an amazing moment to see that and feel that and say, hey, we did this, we helped them. We had one client that was, they're a nonprofit, and their largest donor, who they received probably about 90% of their funding from, said, hey, we can't pay that anymore. We need to renegotiate. And they were stuck. What do we do? So we worked with them over the course of 6 months and developed a roadmap to diversifying their funding. And within 2 years, they had diversified by 30%. And it really made a big difference for them. And now they're a financially stable organization because of the work we did. So, and it wasn't a long haul. It was within those first couple of years that there was really a guided difference. So to see those happening and see that happening to our clients, that stuff drives me still. It still excites me.
But I want to hear some thoughts. What would you say to someone that is ready to do it? Like, it's scary, absolutely. But give me 2 or 3 things that you'd say to a person that's like considering or thinking, or just like, I'm watching all these different podcasts, because like webinars, podcasts, conferences, everything's online. I'm seeing so much content and I'm almost there. But what's that moment of truth?
I would say you really need to sit down and think about why you're doing it. Okay, because if you're doing it because I was laid off and I've got nothing else right now, is that enough? Is that going to be something that's going to sustain you through the hard times? Maybe it is for some people who are really driven, but finding where your passion is, on the real reasons why you want to jump out on your own, and then again, it's doing that homework and doing that research. Those are the things you really need to do. So as you do that work, as you feel, think about yourself and what's driving you, it's going to guide your business plan. It's going to guide what types of products and services you're putting out there and how you deliver those products and services. So, I would tell people, don't rush, take your time, do the homework and figure out, number one, do you have the stomach for starting it? Because it's a scary prospect. You need those supporting casts. But I'll tell you, it's incredibly rewarding when you get up and running and successful. And, I certainly have flexibility that I have never had before in terms of being able to go to my kids' sporting events and things of that nature, which I really appreciate.
What has a pandemic added to your life personally? So now I'm assuming you're working from home. I
am, yeah.
So, and not just like working from home now, but working home, is it a home office or do you have an office?
I have both. So I do have an office that I do go to periodically, but I spend probably 80% of my time working at a home office. Okay. So, there's no question it's been impactful because, clients that we have, their funding is drying up. We have a lot of nonprofits who rely on fundraisers throughout the course of the year, and those fundraisers are gone. You can say you're doing it virtually, but really, that doesn't provide as much income as an in-person event really does in a lot of ways. There are some success stories where people have done really well with the virtual events, but by and large, it's been a difficult time for nonprofits. And other clients are just kind of hedging on spending money because they're scared. We do have one client that has said, look, this is the time we're pulling back in many other ways, but we're going to put all of our money towards marketing and communications because we need to be out there more in a very proactive way. And they're doing pretty well right now because of that mindset. So it's been hit or miss. I've had, with the clients we've certainly had to shift to different narratives and how we service them. But there's other clients that have gone away because they just simply don't have the funds right now. So, I think it's tough on everybody. We're all working harder and I'm trying trying to balance that with our responsibilities of keeping our friends and family safe.
Which of course we go right to the family. How has this time helped? I mean, like, what have you added to your life, to your company, that you would have never done, or you would have done eventually, but you have this like ridiculous amount of time? So what has that evolved for you?
See, I didn't have the time. That I actually felt like I had less time when this started because of having the kids at home. When you're trying to do homeschooling, I heard people talk about that where they had more time, and I just didn't. However, I did redo my kitchen myself, which was a huge accomplishment.
Wait, all right. So hi, Mr. I don't have any
Okay.
kids. You are working. You have 3 children. You have a wife that you're like, okay, we are a team here. There's like, we're in a pandemic. We're gonna get this done. And oh yeah, by the way, I'm gonna redo the kitchen.
Redo my kitchen. So we waited until summertime when school time was over because we couldn't do anything before. We did try and do things. That is something. But I think it was just trying to. It's tough because my story isn't exactly the same as I think others would feel, because we have 2 foster children who have large trauma histories. So when we came into COVID, it kind of reignited that trauma all over again, because you're now pulling away everything that they've ever known, their school, their friends, their teachers, family who you can now only see during Zoom. And it was really tough on them to have that new trauma in their lives when it's compiled with what they've gone through already. So a lot of our time was really helping them. And you know what? We really focused on getting outside and being out and going for walks and going for hikes, and doing it in isolated ways. But that was central to what we had to do because of where we were in our journey.
I follow, obviously we're friends. I follow you on social media. It makes me happy. You guys, even before you had the 2 editions, you guys were on trips. Your trips were epic. You had an amazing experience where the balance of work and play was very, very clear, which is what makes me very, very happy. I think about all, I'm going to go back a little bit. It's a balance of what I'm going to ask. I think about all the small businesses and the fact that we all have families. Just like us, where you have your family, you have your business. You don't have the luxury of taking a day off. You just don't have that luxury. And so you're hearing all the goods, the bads. You're hearing about the loans. You're seeing people like figuring out like creative ways to keep their shops going. Is there anything that you're seeing that someone shouldn't do? What shouldn't I do as a small business? Because I'm overwhelmed with information. I'm overwhelmed with my business. I'm overwhelmed with my family. School just started. I'm just overwhelmed. And we're at the final stretch of this year. What shouldn't I be doing so that way I can stay afloat, so that way I can keep breathing, so that way I'm just not like destroying myself? You're doing it too. You're in that same world as.
Yeah. Look, I've had 1 vacation in 7 years where I didn't have my phone. And that was only because I didn't get service. I was in the national park. And that's the way it is. Like I'm always on. I think that, and this is completely unrelated to the type of work that I do. But you can't forget what it is we're going through right now, and taking time to keep yourself healthy. And I don't mean healthy physically by just wearing a mask, which we should all do. Taking those times to get outside and just refresh mentally, because this is a real tough time mentally for a lot of people and emotionally, and being able to keep yourself physically healthy, emotionally happy, mentally healthy. If you're not doing that, your work is going to suffer. And so I think that, you know, we are reminding clients of this very fact, to make sure that you're doing that. For the CEOs we're working with, making sure they're talking with their employees. How are they doing? What can you do as a CEO to support them emotionally beyond their physical needs? So, you know, it's something that if you're not doing, it's going to wear you down and make it 10 times more difficult if you don't do it. And you're not going to be able to do the type of work that you want to do for your clients and customers.
I feel that your job has evolved from being an individual that's educating about your messaging to an individual that is gone full therapy, because when you are dealing with a lot of your clients, they're not thinking about that. They're just thinking about go, the company, the staff, do we have enough money? They're not thinking about themselves. And it is one of those moments where, I'm so sorry, I missed a step. Education, crisis management, therapy. They're missing the key element of, if I don't take care of me, I can't take care of everyone else.
You know, I mean, we do provide a lot of, you know, I'm not a therapist, but we're going to talk you through a lot of, you know, a lot of things, because we do a lot of crisis work too. So, you know, we'll have nonprofit organizations call us up, or lawyers call us up and say, you know, this has happened. How can you help us? You know, so we really are kind of a business partner with them, but you know, talking through, all right, these are the things you need to do to survive. This has nothing to do with your messaging. This has nothing to do with necessarily calling a reporter, but you know, we think of it in terms of audiences, and your employees are your audience. Their families are your audience. And you need to be communicating with them too. And it's a very different thing. So yeah, I mean, there are certainly clients that, you know, we're just sitting down in the room and, you know, talking about how to navigate the world we live in.
I feel like it goes sometimes when you're with those clients and they look at you like, why? I don't understand why. Because they're thinking, they're always thinking about, again, the customer, not the internal customer. And so I'm sure that those conversations are very difficult, and it's like, oh, like what's they know, why do I have to say it? They know.
They don't. And that's the thing. And it goes, think about our discussion earlier about messaging, that, you know, a lot of times that messaging, it's only one or two people in the company, the marketing department or the CEO, whoever, just talking about what that messaging is. And then nobody else uses it. It's not in their emails. It's not in their communications. And you might think that they know it or they're using it, but they're not. And then it's the same thing with this. You can't forget about all those other aspects. And it's regular reinforcement of things, and talking over and over again, and repeating, and it needs to be ingrained in what you're doing. And if you're not doing it on a regular basis, don't ever assume that the other people are aware that you're ever doing it. You know, it needs to become part of who you are and what you're doing in every way.
I mean, honestly, I could talk to you for such a long time about so many different things, of different situations that I've dealt with, where we're both in the same world, but same, but not the same. But I know you're busy, so I'm gonna sit there and ask one question.
Okay.
If you, well, you know, I always say that, but then there's like something that comes up, but this is like really, I think it's like, if you had a personal and professional ask, both a personal and professional ask of anyone that's listening to you right now, what would be your personal and your professional ask?
Oh boy, that's a tough question. I mean, I think from a,
I love it.
I'm not even sure what he wants. I don't think he knows what he wants. So I think from a professional ask, it's really for companies and business owners to kind of, you know, I thrive off of seeing these people succeed, these companies succeed. and to provide the services that they're really looking for from their clients. But so taking that step back right now and start planning for the future. And that future is next year when there's a vaccine. And be ready for it. Be ready to hit the ground running. And don't take this time right now to be complacent. Find ways to connect with your customers. He's agreeing with me. That's the whole thing. He's saying, yes, Brent, this is right. Personally, you know, I think, and this is a communications response too, we just need to talk to each other more. And, you know, and being able to talk to each other in ways that are not antagonistic, and understanding each other's differences and respecting them while at the same time learning from them. You know, being in politics, I saw firsthand that wasn't happening. It doesn't happen anymore. In a world of social media, it doesn't happen. People, you know, you just say what's on your mind without thinking about the consequences. So from a personal perspective, it all still comes down to communications and communicating with each other in a more respectful way, and to learn, continue to learn.
I honestly, I couldn't say it any better. I mean, literally our lives have intertwined so well. Like, I mean, starting TV, going to politics, starting our own business in the world of communicating, and communicating to small, medium businesses, nonprofits. We see the world very similar, and I love you for that. I love that you are making sure that these companies are finding ways to succeed in themselves, because again, they're moving too fast. Personally, professionally, you are a rock star. I love you to death. I mean, it's so funny because like seeing this cute little tiny young Brett back in the, and you're like, I go, Senator Kennedy, and I'm like, it's just like so amazing what you've done. It cracks me up because it just cracks me up. So I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of what you're doing. Your entire life is just like, it makes me smile. Like you really, you see me, I'm always commenting. I'm like, oh my God, I love this. I'm always engaged. I'm always watching you. I communicate a lot. I talk fast, but I watch all of you guys, and I don't care what anyone says about social media. I love that Facebook and stuff like that exists because we are so busy that we don't see each other live.
Yeah.
But this is
especially now.
But this is a great opportunity to see you and talk to you. So now, it adds a little bit more life to your social media. That's just photos.
Well, it's been too long, and I just really love the opportunity to catch up, because it's been equally fun for me to watch you and your travels and see everything that's going on in your life, and the beautiful beach pictures, and ocean pictures like the one behind you that you're posting.
I know this is like literally like my backyard. Like, I mean, like literally, no, this is like literally like a hop, skip, and a jump.
I wake up in the morning and I see these beautiful pictures, and it inspires me in my day. It really does.
And thank you. I mean, that's like for me where I have to start my day with the sunrise. And I mean, during the summer, it's a little hard because it comes up at 4:35.
It's early.
But I still do it. It makes me smile. It makes me smile. And it's a great way for me to connect with everyone that is just rolling out of bed. They're like, what time do you sleep and what time do you get up? I'm like, I know. Okay, I mean, still, the Energizer Bunny has not gone away.
Sleep was so 2019.
It so was. We don't do that anymore. We're just trying to add so much more into our lives. Yeah. Brent, thank you. I adore you. And at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, so December, January, I'm going to start coming back to everyone that I spoke to, because I want to see what happens. What happened? I mean, where's the end of your story?
I look forward to that conversation.
All right, my friend.
See you later.
And send much love to your beautiful family.
I will do that.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.